When you hear the term greatest of all time, what comes to mind? Mike Tyson, one of the most coveted boxers in his era, dominated the heavyweight division. While his greatness was undeniable, his childhood was that of a nightmare, growing up with an absent father and a crime-filled neighborhood. Muhammad Ali is another heavyweight champ, acclaimed as the greatest boxer of all time.
I am the greatest.
He stood for a movement of liberty and destigmatizing the minorities of the Western world. And lastly, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and all his glory and all his success was all attributed to his coach and loving father, Abdul Manap. What separates these wolves from the pack is that they all had a purpose that allowed them to excel and thrive in that ring. That brings us to a 28-year-old Georgian boy who had all odds stacked against him, but found resounding success attaining the featherweight champ of the world and is looking to cement a legacy along the company of the greats.
Ilia Topuria riding that wave. I mean, this guy is the real deal.
The kid who has been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since 4 years old, the kid who has been Greco-Roman wrestling since 7.
His story, reminiscent of the coveted fighters I mentioned, does not fall short in any aspect when it comes to his extreme hardships growing up. And this is the curious story of how a war-torn refugee boy became UFC champ of the world, and what does the future entail for the UFC's golden boy. It was 1992 in the Republic of Abkhazia. A movement by the Abkhazian separatists saw the ousting and persecution of the Georgian people, of whom included Ilya's own parents. After years of ethnic cleansing, Topuria's parents, along with the young Ilia, were forced to seek refuge in Germany and reside as a impoverished family. These economic hardships forced young Ilia and his brother to take on any jobs that were available. The instability due to political and economic reasons forced the family to settle elsewhere. However, the move was a pivotal one for the family, and specifically for Ilia himself. This move for Topuria was not just a geographical shift, but a major life change for him. The instability of his youth and constantly relocating brought its own challenges, but the hurdles would not stop there. He had to adapt to a whole new culture and learn a new language, adding on to the 15-year-old's unstable youthhood. However, here, Topuria would be exposed to Greco-Roman wrestling, where he quickly grew fond of the sport. From the outset, the boy was sent through rigorous training programs through his coaches, on top of having to balance work to help out his family. Ilia's determination, however, was starting to pay off, and he quickly paved a name for himself in the local MMA scene. The skill set from Ilia at just the age of 15 attracted the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger to watch one of his amateur fights in Madrid, showing the potential of this young man. Ilia would continue to rise in his professional debut, where he would be the first Georgian Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, which led him to signing with the BCF. Here, Topuria quickly proved to be a problem after defeating a fighter named Luis Gomez by submission in the first round, followed by knocking out Steven Goncalves in just his second fight. All these incredible performances, paired with the hunger he had after facing all of the hurdles from his youth, would soon pay off for the Georgian. Topuria signed with the UFC, and his debut fight would come unexpectedly when the promotion would call him up as a replacement fighter. Ilia, however, of course, was fond of adversities, and he'd proved that exactly with his first fight in 2020. He won his first bout on short notice unanimously, and for his next 4 out of 5 fights, he'd take matters into his own hands. He finished notable opponents like Damon Jackson, Ryan Hall, and Jay Herbert, all by the way of knockout. And his resounding start and success in the featherweight could only be paralleled to one other fighter, Alexander Volkanovski. Ilia's relentless start to the UFC earned him a title shot against none other than the best featherweight to ever do it. And if Topuria needed a challenge, this was the most mound of ones. The date was set, UFC 298 on February 17th of 2024.
Challenger Ilia Topuria is in red, Volkanovski in the black. And
Good shots.
Topuria crowns Volkanovski brand new.
Ilia had done it. To everyone's surprise, he did not just beat, he had dethroned the greatest featherweight in the second round by knockout. Any lingering doubts on his presence were put to rest, and his legacy just began to take form. Meanwhile, another notable opponent, Max Holloway, had just come off one of the greatest knockouts in UFC history, defeating Justin Gaethje with mere seconds left in the fight. Max had an eye out for this kid and wanted to retain that coveted belt of his. Topuria had the opportunity to show that he belonged, and what Topuria did sent a massive warning to all of the UFC. Ilia, with many doubters against him, knocked out a man who has never seen stars before, showing the mere power he packs at 145. Ilia simply does not care who is in front of him across that octagon, and the confidence this man is walking around with is simply unmatched. Dana just announced that Topuria is done in the featherweight division, with Ilia believing he will thrive even more in the stacked lightweight corner. The man, so early into his career with only one title defense, stripped his title and called out the pound-for-pound champ in the lightweight division, Islam Makhachev, who currently has the most title defenses in lightweight history. You want to talk about confidence? Just look at Ilia Topuria. And going back to the concept of fighting with purpose, Ilia possesses this attribute in all lights. From a boy seeing wars at a young age, to working odd jobs while simultaneously training to provide for his family, the challenges he faced is proving to be every bit of motivation he fights with in the octagon. Whether the next fight is with Islam or against coveted fighters like Do Bronx Oliveira, one thing is extremely clear: Ilia is coming with vicious force, aiming to cement himself as the best fighter to ever do it.